Welcome to the Countdown to 100 Episodes special series from Be the Good with Kate. If you are tuning into this podcast for the first time, welcome. Be the Good with Kate is all about highlighting individuals who have overcome obstacles, looked inward, taken the time and effort and fails and successes to find their passions, follow them, and help others along the way. I have had the great honor of interviewing nearly 100 guests for this show, and each one has inspired me in various ways. And now, to bring in 100 episodes, I wanted to bring back some of these guests to give you a reminder of the great things they are doing, an update on where they are now, and an opportunity to be inspired again by their words of wisdom. In the show notes, you'll see the original episodes of each guest so you can go back and listen, as I know you'll want to hear more after taking in these snippets from each. New or returning, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of the Be the Good with Kate community. Every listen means the world, and every comment, email, share, and review both fill my heart with gratitude as well as help these inspiring messages of pursuing your passion get to more listeners. Thank you. Now on to the episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world.
All the way back in episode 12, I had the pleasure of interviewing Alvin Huff Jr., who is now the music director and conductor of New York, New York on Broadway, as well as a member of the Muse Executive Committee. He is nonstop. And honestly, I just think he's one of the coolest, most multifaceted people that I have gotten to meet. I don't say that lightly. He had a meteorology background in school, and now he works on Broadway. He's a husband. He has 2 children. He lives here in New York City. And I can't believe he found time to talk to me today. He is on a break from the Tony Awards rehearsal while we record this. So by the time that you're hearing this episode, we will be in a different time period, and hopefully all goes well this weekend. But Alvin, thank you so much.
Of course, happy to be here. I guess quick quirky thing I'll say. By the time you see this, it will have been a couple of months ago. But the crazy wildfire smoke that drifted down to New York from Canada. I'm no air quality expert, but the amount of attention I got, Alvin, you're the weather guy. What's going on? Is it the apocalypse? Is the world ending? I'm like, okay, calm down. It's just some smoke. It's terrible. It's awful. But we will survive, and the city has pulled through, thankfully.
Yeah, and now the sun is shining through the window, thankfully. Yeah. And that's something I find so interesting about you too. If you follow Alvin on social media, and all those links will be in the notes here too, you'll see that he posts so much about weather and also about his family. And it's almost like, most people think, oh, Broadway, that's such a big thing, but you don't highlight it every day on your social media. And it just shows that humility as well, I think. So that's something that's always stood out to me.
Thanks. I don't get me wrong, grateful to have had the right opportunities, to have met the right people, to have made the networking connections to be on Broadway. But that's only part of me. I think, I don't know, without getting overly philosophical, I think it's a lot of times people get defined by a certain label, like you're a Broadway conductor, Broadway music director. Great, but yes, that is part of me. But I try to let people see all of me. To know, like you said, I'm a parent, I'm a husband. I have other things to post. Now, I don't go too crazy. I'm not going to post a video of my kid throwing a temper tantrum, because there are definitely peaks and valleys with parenting. And, we try to paint our children in the best light going forward. But there are many sides of Alvin. So I think it's important to, not harp too much on one and give short shrift to the others. So thanks for saying that.
Oh, you bet. I just love it. And then you also put a lot of time and energy into Muse, which stands for Musicians United for Social Equity. So can you tell us a little more what's going on there?
We are, so many things are, blown up at the same time. It's good to see. I'm proud of our organization for being one of the ones that is truly sticking with the work. George Floyd was murdered. God, it's been 3 years now. And so we've been around for 3 years. We developed shortly after that. But I think a lot of, without bad mouthing, certain organizations or certain companies or people that just want to tick a box. I think some folks wanted to tick a box and kind of move on. And then there are other organizations like Muse that, we're here to really build a pipeline. If you're not aware, we are just trying to open up opportunities for people of color, for historically disadvantaged people who may not know that theater like in a musical, in a musician sense, they may not know that that's appropriate or right for them. And we want to say, yes, it is. Yes, you deserve to be in this room. Yes, you have talent. How can we develop it in a way that, you can be the next generation of stars? And I think those of us who are working now are really working, which is a great thing. But we're around for the long haul. We're trying to build a pipeline to have people. I'm not embarrassed to say I'm 39. I'll be 40 next February, but I'm still a baby in the industry. But I'm not going to be doing this forever. Like, I want to find the person who's going to take over for me, who's 30, who's 25, who's 20, who's 15, and find those, younger people who just need the right. They need to be told, need to be taught, need to be shown how to take their skills and their talents and to apply them to a theatrical setting. They may be great for church or the pop world or something else, but I mean, the theater world is a unique entity, unique setting. And so it's taking the skills that people have, developing them and getting them prepared to do theatrical tours and to have hopefully long running shows on Broadway and regionally throughout the country.
Excellent. And again, those links will be in the notes too, so everybody can check out Muse and get involved and support and share. And Alvin, I just have to ask, what is it that's motivating you each day? What's like getting you to wake up and say, let's seize this day?
Well, okay, multifaceted answer. I'm sure I can speak for a lot of parents out there who have to be musicians. We musicians are night owls, but children are early risers. So you have to find the beauty in them waking you up at 6 something in the morning.
I have that to look forward to very soon.
Touche. But they're just full of energy and full of joy and curiosity. And, what does the world have in store for you? So that's the morning side of it. For me, what I'm finding at night now, it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to stick conduct, to be in a setting where I'm in front of an orchestra, like in an open pit, downstage center. In other words, like the front row, they're right there.
Yeah.
And to have that interaction, I try not to seem like an intimidating figure when I get to the podium, like, oh, the conductor's here. It's like, no, I'm just another dude. I have to wave my arms around like a crazy person, but like, I'm just another dude. You can talk to me, like you can share, your thoughts, and just to have that connection with a different audience every night is kind of special. To have people say, oh my gosh, the show, it touched me in a way. And they kind of go on about how, especially the older generation, because our show centers around World War II. And for folks who are, who still remember that time, it's a lot for them. It sets off emotions that they may not have dug up in a while. And for those just coming in to see the spectacle, I had one of the cast members in rehearsal this morning say, you know what, our show is eye candy. And I'm like, you know what? That's true. We got a lot of things going. So if you want to just come and have a good time and see some really, amazing choreography, amazing set design, and hear a great 19-piece orchestra, come see us. So I think my motivation is knowing like that there's 1,700 people behind me who haven't seen it yet, since we're a brand new show, and that keeps me going. I will say, having to stand to conduct a 3-hour show 8 times a week is my feet are speaking to me in a way that they haven't been in years past. But it's cool. It's cool.
I can imagine. Are massages a part of your contract these days?
It isn't, but I now know. I've learned. See, for the next one, oh yeah.
Yeah. yes. Get that written in stone. Oh my gosh, Alvin, I love what you're doing. I love hearing these updates, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time here today too.
Of course, my pleasure, and great to see all the things that you're doing, and obviously congratulations. Next time I see you, I guess someone will be outside of the belly. Huh?
Yeah, hopefully he will be. Actually, he'll come out at least counting to 8 from all the dance classes.
See, bingo. Start him early.
Yeah. I'm thrilled to welcome back Jim Cooney. He is the oldest guest in terms of episodes that we are welcoming back here. He was episode 7 when Be the Good with Kate was called Some More Good News. And he has been doing a ton since. He is nonstop. Jim is a director and choreographer and founder of Amplified Artists. And what I wrote about him the first time that I have to reiterate now, because it's still the same, since first walking into his class at Broadway Dance Center here in New York City, I knew I would be a fan of Jim Cooney. He has an energy that's a rare mix of welcoming and energizing, but also grounded and professional. All of that at once. Beyond learning steps, he delves deep into your why, showing up for yourself, centering yourself, and so much more. And in addition to being a director and choreographer, his amazing business sense led him to create Amplified Artists. So he's here to tell us more about what's going on. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you for that intro. Wow. First you said the oldest. I'm like, I know I just had my birthday. I'm really the oldest person on this podcast, but then like, okay, oldest episode. Okay, phew.
I was trying to figure out a way to reword that. And then I was like, we're just going to go with it. And
no, it's just like, I got for a second. 7. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, no, cool.
No, you are by far not the oldest. Don't worry.
I mean, age is great. The older you get, the smarter you get. So I don't mind it. But I was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm already the oldest person. So good.
No, not at all. You probably, I don't know. It'd be interesting to figure out. You're probably in like the 40th percentile, or somewhere in that 30 to 50 range, I'd say, in age.
Great. Well, I mean, I'm lucky to be alive and be here. So I mean, I'm not going to ever complain about age. I'm happy about it. Yeah.
Well, and you keep adding more to your resume and more to what you're doing with every year that goes by. And it's been a couple years. So what's been going on?
Before I clicked on, I just was like, I wonder when that was. I knew it was during the pandemic when we did the podcast, but I couldn't remember exactly when. And it was still within like the end of that first year, basically, or the start of the second year. So, I mean, Broadway wasn't open yet. Theater wasn't back on. And I don't know if I already knew this when we talked, but shortly after, I moved to Europe for 4.5 months, maybe like 2 months or so after this episode aired. And it was just kind of one of those things like, well, there's literally no jobs open. A friend of mine is a school teacher here for some of the universities and needed a place to stay for the semester, which is how it was the 4.5 month block. I was already going to be going to Europe for 2 weeks anyway, a trip that had gotten postponed because of the pandemic. And then Europe opened up before we did. I don't know, if people remember that or not. But so if you had your vaccine cards and things, you could show it into the restaurants and you could still go into places if you had your mask on and stuff like that. So we just decided just to get out and do it. And that was really like a crazy experience because it just opened the door of like how much there is out there in the world to see. Like I always loved to travel before, but actually just living somewhere for 4.5 months and like traveling all over Europe, just like how easy it is to put pause on your career and go. Now, obviously that time it was forced to be on pause because there was nothing open, but it just made me think like, oh, I need to do this more often. And even now, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to go over to Europe for 5 weeks, just putting the career on pause for a little bit to go over there. Because I think the whole pandemic taught me that I was just so focused on career, as so many of us are, and then we give up so many things in our lives to get ahead. And really, like the best thing we can do for ourselves is to give back for ourselves. And just going into so many museums there and seeing shows and eating food and seeing architecture and just being surrounded by art, it just totally re-inspired me and like fed my soul in a different way. And just it like gave me like breath and space where I felt like, okay, there's so much of life that I can also explore. And before I travel for like a week or two, and like the whole time I was on the trip, yes, I was enjoying it, but I was also like, okay, I got to get back because rehearsal starts for this. And then I have to have that coffee with that person on this date. And it was like, I couldn't just go away for a little bit. And so I encourage anyone to do that. And, especially if you have someone subletting your place. And the thing about Europe is it's cheaper than America. So, you can go on your same budget that you live on now, especially if someone's subletting your place, and it doesn't cost you anything to be over there. And then after that, I went to Mexico for a few months and lived down there, and that's even cheaper. So I actually made money by living in Mexico. So a lot of traveling that first year. And then when things started to open up, my agent even said to me, I don't know if you need to move back to the city now because people are just really looking for female directors, people of color, and this is a great thing that's been happening in our industry is all these opportunities being opened up now and all these new voices and things. It's like, it's been a long time coming and finally has been happening. But at the very beginning of that, it was like people were not wanting to hire anyone who was white, and that's fine. We have to shift the pendulum a little bit. So I just had it in my mind that like, okay, it's going to be another year or so before I, start to get the ball rolling again. But, it's just like last year was such a prolific year for me creatively, career wise. I didn't even go back to teaching at BDC, as you probably know, because you used to take
I know, and I'm very
Yeah.
upset about it, but I know it's been good for you.
but I haven't had the time, and I have more than replaced all of the income I made teaching through all this directing and choreography stuff. And I was never one of those teachers that, some people are like, oh, it's a good thing to me to fill in the gaps between my projects. Like even when I was a little kid, I had like a chalkboard in the basement. I had chairs set up for like imaginary students. I was always like pretending that I was a teacher. I'd have my parents take me to like the teacher supply store to get like, teaching supplies, even though I had no students, but like I just loved teaching it. And I've always just loved doing that. So I never looked at it as like, oh, this is my survival job. It's just something I love to do. But, when you decide like, okay, well, I'm going all in on all these other projects that are coming up, I'm not going to be able to teach anymore or teach as much. What is that going to do financially? And luckily it's been fantastic. I mean, it's been just as much, if not more. And, I still get my teaching through Amplified Artists. So it still fills my soul up that way. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. And this is something that, like, I know we talked about this last time on the podcast about, I think we're just like brainwashed that we just have to go to class and become the best singer, dancer, actor, performer, whatever it is you do, or be the best choreographer, submit yourself to all the choreography festivals, go try to have coffee with 1 million people, talk to as many artistic directors. Like all we're taught to do is our skills, right? But everyone in New York has like so many amazing skills. And, when you go to a class, I mean, think about when you like leave a dance class or leave a voice lesson, like how much did you actually grow in that last hour and a half? Probably a minuscule amount. It's not like we're 5 years old and we're like really learning how to sing and dance and act now. I mean, at this point, it's just like upkeep, refining, trying to broaden your horizons. So why are we spending so much time doing that? But that's what we're told to do, is like, just keep going to class, just keep becoming better. And we're like not giving ourselves time to do anything else that actually, you mentioned having the business sense. All my, parents and aunts and uncles are all financial entrepreneurs. And so it was just like, hearing all that business stuff growing up all the time. And it's like just applying those same kind of concepts here. And, another thing I think we're all taught is to try to be as versatile as possible. And that's true. You do want to have skills, but I think if you don't really know like what you are the best at and what makes you unique and go all in on that, like we should get paid to be ourselves. We shouldn't get paid to try to be all these other people that we're not. I mean, obviously as an actor, you're pretending to be someone else, but in our own life and career, we should be paid to be ourselves. And so how do we package up like what's unique about ourselves and make it attractive to the people hiring us? And then how do we make sure that's consistent with all of our marketing? Because a lot of people think like, I'm just going to go to an audition, that's how I book work, or I'm just going to have a pitch meeting as a director choreographer, that's how I book work. But no, you can book work off your website, off your reel, off your reputation, off your social media. And like this has happened to me in all those categories. It's happened to all of our members and Amplified Artists in those categories. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other ways you can do it. But if you don't spend the time doing those things, that never happens. And so instead of putting all your eggs into the audition basket, which is like, you have only a little bit of control in that situation, the creative team and casting and everything else, luck has all that other, say in it. Why don't you do all these other things that give you way more opportunities to be booking jobs, but also that are easier to do, right? And you have more control over it. There's not so much luck involved in all these other things. And so I had been preaching about this way before the pandemic and putting these things into practice myself, because it was trial and error for me too. Like I kept thinking like, why am I not getting ahead? Like, what am I doing wrong here? Why do I see other people getting ahead and I'm not? And it was once I started doing all those things, that was like that year, I remember working like nonstop. That first time I really started to put it into practice, I won more awards for my directing and choreography than I'd won my whole career combined up until that point. And I was like, whoa, this is like really working. And then enter the pandemic and it's like, okay, great, put this on pause. But then it was like, as soon as the pandemic was over, and, my agent was again saying like, I think it's going to take a little bit of time before things pick up again. No, it was like things immediately picked back up. And some of the biggest jobs I've had in my career to date, and some of the biggest paychecks I've had. And again, just working nonstop, as you said before we signed on, am I even in New York? Because it's like, why do I live here? I'm like constantly bopping all over the place doing all this stuff. But like, it just works. And I see it work for our members too. And that's why like I'm just so passionate about like trying to break people out of the cycle of like, I'll just keep going to class. Because that's, if you keep doing that, it's like you're going to keep getting the same results you have now. And so if that's not working for you, you've got to change what you're doing. And so that's what I'm really trying to help people understand, is like the much bigger picture of building a career. And like, you are a business, and how do you advertise yourself and get those people to want to say yes to you and not have to think about it,
And hearing this too in the performing industry, it also overlaps in just any job in general. And hearing you talk about it is reminding me of so many other guest stories along the way, of that it's not all about like, okay, this is the job right now and it's going to be my job for the next 40 years. Like that just doesn't happen. It's, what am I doing to be a whole person? And that theme keeps coming up in one way or another. And I love how you just spoke about that. And even your story about your industry shut down and you didn't go, oh, woe is me, I'll sit here in my apartment. They're like, okay, let's do Europe. And then you felt like you became even, more well-rounded person than you already are. And you talked about being surrounded by arts and culture. And that is just so fantastic. And I'm really glad you talked about all of that, because it's so important, no matter what industry we're in, to be looking outside our comfort zones and looking outside of just, did I do all the classes and is my resume filled in this, that, or the other way? So thanks for highlighting that. It's so important.
Yeah, I think we spend so much time thinking about ourselves. I mean, this is natural of any business. But really we need to think about all the other people. Like, what does that casting director need from me? What is that director, that producer, artistic director, whoever it is, choreographer? But we tend to think about that in like, just from a skill sense. Well, they need a good dancer, or they need someone that can do forward pirouettes, or they can sing a high C. Okay, yeah, like that is a need for sure, if that's what that role calls for or whatever. But what do they really need? What kind of energy do they want in the room? What are the kinds of people they want to work for? What are their insecurities? What's going to make them feel like they're doing their best work? How can you help them achieve their goals? And if you kind of frame it from, I'm of service of all these other people, it's also of service of yourself. But like thinking about the bigger picture of like, how can I really help move people's projects forward? Because who doesn't want someone that's going to help move their project forward, right? And so many actors come in, I can only speak from a director choreographer position, but like when actors come in, and you can just tell the difference between someone who's like, they're ready to like just create art and be a vessel and like, let's be a circle here and let's collaborate together, versus the people who are like, oh, I really hope they like me, I really hope they pick me, like all that kind of stuff. Like that energy, like, it's like, if you just want a job, then I'm not the right person for you. I want to work with people who want to create an amazing piece of theater and who's going to move an audience so that they leave the theater being changed and they're a different person now. Like that's the kind of people I want to work with. And so it's, I think we have to think more about these things, like how a business would, of like, well, who's your target audience, and like, who's your ideal customer, as they would say in the business world. Like, who are the directors you want to work with? Or in my case, as a director and choreographer, like, who are the artistic directors I want to work with? Who are the producers? Who are the writers I want to work with? So whatever you do in the industry, like there's someone who hires you. Even if you're the producer, you need writers to produce shows, you need directors to direct your shows. So it's like, we all need each other. And that's why I talk about being a circle and not a ladder, because everyone needs everyone else. And so, this is a collaborative art form. And so what are you bringing to the table, and how can that benefit everyone else's art that they're trying to make?
And you're such an example of it. No wonder that you keep getting work and more work and more work. And it all just adds on to that momentum. And Jim, where can people find out more about Amplified Artists and getting involved in that way?
Yeah, so they can go just directly to the website. It's amplifiedartist.life. And if they want to connect with me personally, it's just my website, jimcooney.me. So those are the two best ways. And I'm on Instagram at jimcooneynyc. So yeah, anywhere. And if people have questions, I'm always an open door. So you can always DM me or ask me anything.
Excellent. Jim, thanks so much. I could ask you a million more questions, but so see a mini update. But it's just so great to see you and hear more about what's going on.
Yeah, I always love to help you and support you for sure.
So happy to have Andrew Parks back here. He was from episode 11 when this was still called Some More Good News instead of Be the Good with Kate. And I know Andrew through New York City, but he is now in California. He is an actor, teacher, advocate, and just overall compassionate human. Some things I loved about his episode, he really talks a lot about advocacy and being a part of solutions for the actors and performers listening. The episode that he was on, episode 11, if you look it up, talks a lot about affecting positive change in your mindset and also audition skills. And just in general, Andrew's a great example of how you can just find ways to make the world a better place in your everyday life. So, Andrew, thanks for being here again.
It's my pleasure, Kate. As always, happy to see you, even from
Thank
the left
you.
coast.
Yes, yes. And how is it going out there? What has been going on in your life?
It's been going fine. It's been a big change. I moved out here with my family April 1st, not an April Fool's joke. And we had to make the decision to come back to California to care for elderly parents. And it was the right thing to do and the right time to do it. And happy to do it. It's been, as I said before, a roller coaster for sure. But this is part of career work here, what we do. You have to make choices and decide how you're going to live your life, and especially when you turn 60, and what you're going to do to participate and still have something to offer and do, and where that can come from. We become so New York and LA centric in terms of a career as an actor that we forget that lives can be very well lived elsewhere. And I taught college for almost 20 years, and that was one of the big missing pieces in all the teaching across the board, was that LA, New York focus, and that somehow if you weren't either of those two places, you weren't an actor, or you had failed as an actor somehow. And that just didn't compute with me at all, because acting is acting, work is work, performing is performing. And we need to value that everywhere. As I live in San Diego now, and so I need to remind myself of that, right? And certainly there are good opportunities here. But it is important that young actors in particular dream big, dream all you want, Broadway, Hollywood, big movie, big TV show, whatever. If none of that happens, and none of that is in your control, of course, it doesn't mean you failed, and it doesn't mean that you're not a good actor, and that you can thrive elsewhere and still pursue your passions, which is performing and acting. So that's for all the young folks out there. Keep that
And
in
it's a
mind.
great reminder too, because I see it more and more. People are realizing that they don't have to be in New York or LA. I mean, the amount of television projects throughout this country, the amount of amazing theaters throughout this country, the amount of touring things you can do and be based out of whatever city you want. It's so true. And, thanks to technology, I'm talking to you through Zoom here, and we have auditions through Zoom and performing opportunities that are remote. So it's such a very real way of living, especially now.
Sure, absolutely. And it's just, as I said, performing is performing, and wherever you get a chance to do it, if that's what drives you and that's your passion, and you get an opportunity to do that in Omaha or Wichita or Santa Fe or Seattle, that's where you go, and that's where you work, and that's where you can bloom and thrive. There's good work that can be done, and Broadway and Hollywood are not the arbiter of success. The world has created that image for us, and the internet and cable TV and 1,600 award shows every year have created that illusion that that's the pinnacle of a career. And for many it is, and it's a wonderful thing. But you and I both know people who have been on Broadway who are still miserably unhappy. And that has, they've grabbed the brass ring and oops, it fell out of my hand, and now I don't know what to do with it.
You had mentioned about moving, and that was a very family-centered reason, and then finding the arts in San Diego too. And I know you're a coach as well. How has that transition been? Have you been able to, especially with the help of technology, like make that smooth? Does it feel like chaos trying to figure out a new city, or just expand on that?
I've been coaching some students from afar on monologues and other, acting related things besides just singing coaching. And I hope to build my studio a little bit here, so I can do in-person coaching here. And I may even pursue some college teaching again, depending on, what's available. But because I love that, as you know, and I really enjoy it and want to get back into it a little bit more. I've put it on hold for a few months because of the move and transitioning with elderly parents. But Labor Day is upon us, and soon we'll start, giving that some more attention as well. I'm not done yet. I'm not retired.
No, and can we highlight that? Like you said, turning 60. And you didn't just change cities, you changed the entire coast. Like you went across America. And that's a great reminder, like no matter what industry someone's in, there's never a timeline. You don't have to say, oh, well, at this point in my quote unquote career, I can't take such a change. Like, no, you can do it at any time. You went across the country and you have the family aspect, you have the career aspect that you're like moving back into, and you're making it work. And I think that's just a really important reminder, and you're a great example that you can do these changes whenever it's needed and whenever the heart feels like it's the time.
Oh, exactly. And again, I think that comes back to, in our industry, about valuing what we do more than where we do it. And feeling fulfilled and valuing and validating ourselves. What we're doing is real and good and true, and that's all that matters. If we feel that, that's all that matters. And it's true in every industry. And I'm discovering that even with my elderly parents and in-laws in my family. There have been some struggles because they are at the end of their lives and are not celebrating their achievements and not validating themselves enough and looking for external answers. Now, I don't know what it's like to be 93. I mean, yet I hope I make it to 93. It'd be nice. I'd like to learn what it's like to be a 93. But that's an important mindset, I think, to have. And I drank the Kool-Aid on it about 15, 16 years ago. And it really changed my approach to a lot of things. It's just like, what I'm doing is worthy and it's got value. And I'm sure I've had some success doing it, but people have responded to it, and students have responded to it, and colleagues have responded to it. And whether it's made them better, I hope it has. But I know that I have something to offer still. I'm not ready to retire, not ready to quit. And I will continue to do that, until I decide not to.
Great inspiration and reminders for us all. Andrew, I have one more question for you, because you were so early in my episodes in the first set that I never got to ask you this question that I tagged on to later. So I'd love to hear your response to close us out here. I asked a lot of guests, what advice would they give to someone who just wanted to find a way to make the world a better place through what they do each day? Do you have anything you'd tell that person?
Holy smokes. Well, if there's something that you are interested in and something that you really feel passionate about, read about it, study it, learn about it, and make yourself into an expert. Participate, volunteer. Sitting on the sidelines is great and cheering is great, but if it's something that you really care about, you have to be involved in it and you have to study it. We have devalued education so much that anybody with an opinion thinks that they're an authority. And it's not true. I'm sorry, young people, again, I love you all. But if you have researched your topic and researched your field of study and have really, ingested it all, then you can call yourself beginnings of an expert and learning about it. So it doesn't matter if it's performing or your career choices or a volunteer passion to save the planet or whatever it is. If you participate and read about it and learn about it, then you can speak about something on authority, and you'll feel better about it too, because you have a position of confidence because of what you're saying is true and valid, because you've developed you've learned, it's back to school, it's learning about it and participating. So that,
Wonderful.
end of lecture.
Right. Well, perfect timing because it is back to school season here as this episode will be released. So, Andrew, I can't thank you enough.
It's my pleasure, Kate. I always love seeing you and spending time together. As always, have a wonderful rest of your summer. Happy Labor Day.
Welcoming back Avital Alsulian, who was episode 41 of Be the Good with Kate. And she has this focus on using the power of dance in a narrative way. She loves delving into how dance can be used as stories. I love that. That was something we talked a lot about last time. But she's also someone who is in so many directions, but in this great way of like constantly working towards her passions, towards her purpose, and using all of this each and every day. She has a busy summer of directing and choreographing. She is the artistic director of the Combustion Collective, and she is in charge of the beautiful choreography lab by New York Theater Barn. So Avital, please tell us more about what's going on.
Yeah, of course. It's been busy. I've been very thankful that, stuff is moving and grooving and rolling again. It has been in my world for a little while now. We returned to live programming for Choreography Lab last year, and we really returned to like full, robust back, like what we had been doing in 2019. Style labs with full audiences. So that's super exciting and wonderful. And I'm also, just coming off of a couple of regional summer stock projects. I did a production of Fiddler on the Roof earlier this year with Big Fork Summer Playhouse, and that's in Big Fork, Montana. And then I also just finished working on a production of Legally Blonde for Jean's Playhouse in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. So a little theme of vacation town musical theater, which can't be mad about.
No, absolutely not. Perfect for summertime. And something I love about you too is you're such a great example of how an artist can be in so many what's the word? Words have become very challenging in pregnancy, but having a hand in many pots or whatever that phrase is, right? And you are constantly doing different projects. And I was so fortunate to be in one of your pieces last fall, one of your jazz pieces, which was so much fun. And in these short months since, you've already had so many other projects going on. And I know you have more this fall too.
Yes, absolutely. So entering into September of 2023, actually, this year is the 10th anniversary of the Choreography Lab since the lab was founded in 2013. We have been in our 10th season already. So we did a lab in the springtime in March. But for the fall, we are having a special lab on September 27th. That lab will be happening at Alchemical Studios in Manhattan in New York City. And we will also have a small little party celebration, more details TBD, but there will be a ticketed celebration after. So it's like a little mini gala that will be celebrating the lab. So you are welcome to attend the Choreography Lab alone, or you can attend this little like lab plus party, which we're really looking forward to.
Excellent. A question, will they continue to also be virtual for people out of town, or are you going back to strictly in person?
No, we will continue to offer our virtual partnership with Full Out Creative. So we will continue to have virtual choreography labs for anyone who wants to join us in different parts of the country. And we're continuing to work on different partnerships there, try to find people who want to, continue to support and see the Choreography Lab who might not be in New York City at the time.
Right. And just for people who aren't really sure, what is a choreography lab? What is it exactly?
Absolutely. Yes. So the Choreography Lab, which is my program from New York Theater Barn, and I made sure to wear my shirt for our purposes today.
Perfect.
The Choreography Lab is a program of New York Theater Barn, and it is all about expanding and elevating the use of dance in contemporary musical theater development. So in a nutshell, what winds up happening is people will develop new musicals. The musical theater composers and lyricists will sit behind their music stands and do these workshops for years and years on end. And the workshops will all be seated. And then 5 years down the line, they'll finally get a producer to greenlight producing their show. They'll put a bunch of dance in the musical, and then they will wonder why the dance is superfluous to the storytelling. Choreography Lab tries to really unend that developmental system and get writers to look at dance as a narrative device earlier in their developmental process. When you think about musicals, like West Side Story, musicals like On the Town, musicals like Chorus Line, these were all developed by really strong directorial choreographic minds who from the get-go were working to make those musicals have dance at the forefront of them. And so we have to remind writers that that's also a way that musical theater storytelling can work, so that the musicals can have dance be part of the bones of the storytelling.
That's great. And it's just so cool how you are the person who founded this and you just made it happen. I remember in the show notes of your episode, I wrote, Avital is someone who makes things happen. Like you just are go, go, go. You saw the need for this. And now 10 years later, here you are celebrating the 10th anniversary. And it really is such a cool event, both what New York Theater Barn does and what Choreography Lab does. So definitely check it out. All the links will be in the show notes. And this September 27th, you can be there in person or virtually if you're out of town.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Excellent. Avi, thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm happy I was able to be here and do a little updating since our last conversation together.
In your brief window of being in town in between contracts.
Absolutely. That is correct.
In taking classes over the years or observing workout videos, one major piece that is often missing: stressing safety and form. Additionally, group fitness classes are often marketed as being open to all levels, yet how often do instructors not give modifications nor progressions so that each participant truly can get what he or she needs out of the class? So that's why I created the 101 series, which take things back to basics with 3 separate courses: Barre 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101, focusing on safety and efficiency so you can maximize your workouts. Be confident when you step into a group fitness class or workout on your own. Be strong in your execution of the most common exercises, and be proud of yourself for taking these huge steps forward on your health journey. Check it out at BeByKate.com. The link is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again and have a great week.